The rain was falling so heavily that the streets looked like rivers, and inside one small restaurant at the edge of the city, a millionaire witnessed something that would change the way he saw the world forever. He had entered expecting a quiet dinner, but instead, he saw a young waitress doing something that made him forget about his wealth, his success, and everything he thought he knew about kindness. Behind the restaurant counter, a tired young woman named Marissa was carefully feeding an elderly woman sitting in a corner. The woman's hands trembled uncontrollably, her eyes moved slowly, and every few seconds she struggled to lift her spoon. It was clear she was fighting Parkinson's disease. But what shocked the millionaire most was not the illness. It was the love in Marissa's eyes as she wiped her mother's mouth, smiled gently, and whispered comforting words while continuing her work. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel Heart Kindness Tales. The millionaire's name was Evander Cole. He was known across the city as a man who built a business empire from nothing. His companies were everywhere, his name appeared in newspapers, and people admired his ability to create success. But behind his expensive suits and luxury cars was a man who had slowly forgotten what warmth felt like. Evander had spent years chasing numbers, deals, and victories. He believed money could solve almost every problem. He had built a mansion with dozens of rooms, but most nights he ate dinner alone. His calendar was filled with meetings, but there was no one waiting at home to ask him how his day had been. That evening, after a stressful business meeting, he entered the small restaurant because he wanted something simple. He did not want a fancy hotel or a room full of people pretending to care about him. He wanted silence. But he found something completely different. He noticed Marissa immediately. She was moving from table to table, carrying plates, cleaning spills, and serving customers with a smile that hid exhaustion. She looked young, perhaps in her late 20s, but there was a heaviness in her eyes that belonged to someone who had carried too many responsibilities. Every few minutes, she would return to the corner table where her mother sat. She would check if she was comfortable, adjust her blanket, and give her small bites of food. Evander watched quietly. He noticed that the elderly woman became frustrated when her hand shook too much to hold the spoon. Instead of becoming impatient, Marissa sat beside her and fed her slowly. "I know it's difficult, Mom," she whispered. "But I'm right here. We'll take our time." Those simple words touched something deep inside Evander. He had spent years hearing people praise his achievements, but no one had ever looked at him with that kind of love. He wondered who this woman was and why someone who worked such a difficult job was carrying such a powerful burden with so much grace. After finishing his meal, Evander quietly asked another employee about her. He learned that Marissa had been working double shifts for months because her mother's Parkinson's had become worse. Her father had passed away years earlier, and she was the only person caring for her mother. The medical bills were growing. The rent was overdue. Some days, Marissa skipped meals so her mother could have enough. Yet she never complained. The next morning, Evander found himself thinking about her. He thought about the way she smiled while struggling. He thought about the way she protected her mother from feeling like a burden. It bothered him because he realized something painful. He had more money than he could spend, but he had forgotten the value of the smallest acts of love. For years, he had donated money to charities because it looked good publicly. But he had never taken the time to understand the people behind the struggles. Marissa changed that. A few days later, Evander returned to the restaurant. This time, he sat near the corner table. Marissa recognized him. "Welcome back," she said politely. "I hope everything was good last time." Evander smiled. "The food was good. But something else stayed with me." Marissa looked confused. He glanced toward her mother. "The way you care for her." For a moment, Marissa lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry if it bothered you," she said. "I don't have anyone else to watch her while I work." "It didn't bother me," Evander replied. It inspired me. Marissa smiled sadly. Sometimes it doesn't feel inspiring. Sometimes it feels impossible. That sentence stayed with him. She told him how Parkinson's had slowly changed her mother. Once, her mother was energetic and independent. She was the woman who woke up early, cooked meals, and encouraged Marissa through every difficult moment. But now, she needed help with almost everything. I don't mind taking care of her, Marissa said. She took care of me when I was a child. I just wish I could do more. Evander looked at her and realized she was not asking for money. She was simply wishing she could give her mother a better life. For the first time in years, he felt a purpose that had nothing to do with business. He quietly contacted doctors, specialists, and caregivers. He arranged for Marissa's mother to receive better medical attention. He paid off the medical debts without telling anyone. But he did not stop there. He wanted Marissa to have a chance to breathe. One evening, when Marissa arrived at work, the restaurant manager called her aside. She thought she had made a mistake. Instead, she was handed a letter. Inside was an offer for a paid position managing a new community project Evander's foundation was starting. It included flexible hours so she could continue caring for her mother. Marissa stood there frozen. I don't understand, she said. The manager smiled. Someone saw how much kindness you give to others. Now someone wants kindness returned to you. Marissa's eyes filled with tears. But she still did not know who was behind it. When she finally met Evander, she could barely speak. Why would you do this for me? She asked. Evander looked out the window at the city lights. Because I have spent my entire life collecting things, he said. And you reminded me that the greatest wealth is what we give. Marissa cried. Not because she received help, but because someone had finally noticed how hard she had been trying. Months passed, and her mother's condition improved with proper care and treatment. She still faced challenges, but she was no longer struggling alone. Marissa continued working with Evander's foundation, helping families who were caring for loved ones with serious illnesses. The project grew because people connected with the message. It was not about money. It was about seeing someone who was silently fighting and choosing to help. 1 year later, Evander returned to the same restaurant where everything began. The corner table was still there. But this time, Marissa was not serving customers while worrying about whether she could afford medicine. She was sitting beside her mother, sharing lunch. Her mother's hands still trembled slightly, but she was smiling. Evander watched them from a distance. He realized that the greatest moment of his life was not when he signed his biggest business deal or bought his largest house. It was the moment he saw a daughter feeding her mother and learned what true success looked like. A person does not become rich because of what they own. A person becomes rich because of the love they leave behind. Marissa's story reminded everyone that there are heroes everywhere. Sometimes they are not famous. Sometimes they are not powerful. Sometimes they are simply people who wake up every morning and choose kindness even when life is difficult. And sometimes, one small act of compassion can completely change 2 lives. If this story touched your heart, please support this video by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your engagement helps these stories reach more people who need a little hope and a reminder that kindness still exists. Before the ending, leave a comment with the word kindness if you believe a simple act of love can change someone's life. Because somewhere in the world, someone may be struggling silently, waiting for someone to notice. And just like Evander learned that night, the smallest gesture can become the biggest miracle.